Good morning, Dr. Kalpana. Thank you so much for joining the personal branding series that I run on my blog. Thank you for taking the time to do this. This is really a thought leadership series I run with personalities who have gone about building their personal brands, and I want them to talk about their experience and their journey. So before we get started, if you could quickly introduce yourself for our audience.
Okay, I'm Kalpana. Kalpana is the full name. Um, I've been an officer of the Indian Administrative Service for about over 33 years now, and worked in a, multitude of sectors: land, energy, education,
Right.
sports, training. Now I'm looking after animal husbandry and public grievances and fisheries in the capacity of Additional Chief Secretary. So that is one aspect of me. The
Right.
other aspect, that is as a bureaucrat or a civil servant. The other
Right.
aspect is that of an academic.
Right.
So that's the second hat, and I've been a learner throughout. Even after
Right.
I joined the service.
Right.
Mid-career, I took a break and did a master's and then a PhD in public policy
Right.
from IIM Bangalore.
Right.
My research interests have continued to stay with me,
Right.
and again, land management,
Right.
public-private partnerships,
Right.
skill development. These are my areas of research interest. I
Right.
also kind of uh, serendipitously I evolved as a speaker.
Right.
I had somewhere along the line, around the time when I was doing my PhD,
Right.
I realized to my surprise and delight that when I spoke, people listened, and
Right.
I had this capacity for translating complex ideas in a simple way so as to get across in a brief speech. So,
Right.
other than research, which is usually directed towards the academic community, I
Right.
also try to address the general public, especially youth, through my
Right.
speeches, and which is what you would have seen on my blogs and
Absolutely.
my YouTube videos. I
Absolutely.
also have a third hat as a volunteer,
Hmm.
and I am an advisor to Akshay Patra Foundation and
Great.
several other NGOs and non-profits, some of which I have been associated with from, say, for the last 30 years. For example, the Swami
Right.
Vivekananda Youth Movement in Mysore,
Right.
where we first met when I was a trainee officer. We called it
Right.
IAS probationer in Mysore, and the
Right.
association has continued throughout. So basically, this family is I, my husband, my two children.
Hmm.
My son is just about to complete his super specialization in neurosurgery. My
Wow.
daughter is a lawyer in the corporate sector. So that about sums up me.
I think that's like a such an impressive and wide-ranging set of achievements. So in fact, that's also the reason why I wanted to have you on this program. So how do whatever you have done is really all that sums up your personal brand. So how do you define it? If you were to define who is Dr. Kalpana Gopalan, what's your definition of personal branding?
I never thought of it really as branding of any
Right.
sort until you used that phrase in your emails. I
Right.
think that cheekily came out even in my replies to you.
Right. Right. Right.
um, I took to social media as more as a mode of sharing
Right.
uh,
Hmm.
than as a mode of projection. So
Right.
you can see the difference.
Hmm.
Um, Somewhere I realized that, especially when I was doing my PhD, I realized how fortunate I have been because
Hmm.
I had this opportunity of interacting with the most incredible minds.
Right.
Some of whom you may not know, but they are really wonderful, both wonderful human beings and wonderful, beautiful minds in the real sense of the word.
Right.
Concordia University in Canada. my another supervisor from McGill University in Canada, Dr. Madhav Badami, my own DAC supervisor, that is to have the dissertation advisory committee. So my guide, my PhD guide is Dr. Shabal Roy from IIM Bangalore. Incredible human beings. So I felt that I had been blessed that I could interact with such minds, and somewhere my way of giving back would be to share that knowledge and expertise and experience that I gained. The IAS gave me a lot of real experience, field level experience. So I thought the best way in which I can give back to the community is to share. And I took to social media chiefly in that for that reason. So I did not think of it as branding. In fact, I have a different take on it. If I can take a little more time to answer your question.
Absolutely.
When we speak of brand, to use that lingo, I feel that there are three aspects to any individual, right? That one is what the show. The first S is the show, which is the image that you project, how you dress, how you move with people, your own presence in the social media. All that is part of your image, and which I call show, just to use a simple term. The next layer, the next inner layer, because every individual, if you peel her like an onion, the next layer is what I call structure, only to make it simple, which is basically your words and your deeds, what you speak and what you do, your actions. Which is in fact a deeper layer, something more important than merely the image that you project. And the third and the final layer, which is the core human being, is what I call the substance. That is the third S, which is what you really are, your thoughts, your inner being, and what only you or somebody very intimately known to you would probably realize. So I feel that these three should be in alignment. The three S's, the substance, the structure, and the show should be in alignment. Increasingly in a world of social media, it is easy to be misaligned and still project an image. Because you see so little of a human being. Our attention spans are also small. The time which we can spare, before we began, I said, oh, I have to leave for a meeting. So the time which we are able to spare interacting with each other, which was not the case when I was a child, probably when you were a child either. We had much more time for each other. But in social media, it's very quick. And nobody wants to see a video, which goes on for, say, 1.5 hours. So you communicate very quickly. Good. I've also developed that skill of, as I told you, translating complex ideas with brevity. But still, that should be in alignment. So if any of these are misaligned, and most frequently, it is the show which we are able to do well, but the substance we don't work on. I think I started from the other end, as it were, that the focus was on the substance and somewhat being an officer of the government on my actions. And very, very little, I confess. Probably I was not right in doing so, but my time was different, so very less on the show. So what happened on the image building side was more as a matter of a kind of side effect of the sharing, which I started doing. So it's a very long answer to your question.
No, I think this is brilliant because you answered the following questions as well, which was really about the process or the journey which you took. So if you were to reflect on your life, I mean, obviously it was a very intentional move in some sense, because you joined the government service, then you did your research and PhD, and you've been involved with a lot of volunteering. So what were some of those building blocks of, as you went about that journey? How did you think about, I know it was planned in some sense, but it was also unplanned in some sense. So how did you think about your journey?
You're perfectly right when you say it was both planned and unplanned. Partly deliberation, but there was very little of it. Mostly serendipity. So the building blocks are not those which you think, getting into the IAS or doing a PhD. Those were not the choices.
Got it.
The real choice or the first choice where I can really say I put my foot down was in doing my MA, my
Okay.
master's,
Right.
which I think was a very seminal moment in my life, and
Hmm.
probably this will resonate with many women.
Hmm.
I was doing my BA finals.
Hmm.
My family always prized education, so I
Got
had
it.
always been told that this is a value.
Hmm.
That is how we grew up in the
Right.
family.
Hmm.
And then and I was just studying for my BA finals, but one very well-meaning, a
Hmm.
little so this was in the 80s, early 80s.
Yeah.
He decided that I should get married.
Hmm.
And so my now if education was a value, there was
Right.
also that respect for elders, which was another value. So
Correct.
my parents simply deferred after bringing me up on a lifetime of education, this thing, or all that study and all those things, like the Indian parent.
Right.
Suddenly, they capitulated and said, "Oh yeah, she should get married," and it was a shock. And
Right.
it was the first time that I really had a conflict with my parents.
Hmm.
And it was not that I fought, but
Hmm.
I still recall that I would be pacing up and down in my room studying for my
Right.
BA finals,
Right.
and suddenly I would be overcome, and I'll rush out of the room, and whoever I could find in the family, I would say that I must do my MA, I must do my MA.
Right.
So it was, I couldn't think beyond that. You see that
Correct.
my horizon was doing. I couldn't envisage life without
Right.
doing an MA.
Correct.
And anyway, all's well that ends well. My parents, I was able to prevail on them,
Great.
and I did do my MA, and then I did another MA, and then I
Okay.
did a master's in public policy mid-career, and then I did a PhD. So
Wonderful.
that choice which I made, which
Yeah.
is very, very trivial today. If you
Right.
think a girl child from an urban educated family doing an MA is not par for the course, but
Right.
that was the real choice.
Hmm.
The IAS itself was a matter of chance. So I
Hmm.
just want to contrast the choices and chances, how they happen. That the
Right.
choice was actually the masters, but the
Right.
chance was that I drifted into the PhD program in IIT Madras once I completed my masters.
Right.
But at that time, they did not have a guide in my particular area of research interest.
Okay.
It was,
Okay.
after all, an institute of technology,
Yeah.
and my area of interest was social sciences and humanities. I
Right.
topped the common examination for research admission, which is
Okay.
the equivalent of JEE for research in those days, for all the IITs together.
Right.
I chose IIT Madras, joined, but since I couldn't find a guide,
Hmm.
IAS is the fallback option.
Okay.
So that was more a matter of chance.
Great. Great.
Similarly, if you look at the next building block, which is the doctorate, which you mentioned,
Right.
I got selected for the masters in public policy by the government. That was a government-sponsored program in IIM Bengaluru.
Right.
So that was again a matter of chance.
Right.
Of course, there was an element of choice that I did decide to go, but it largely happened by chance.
Right.
The PhD came a little later, that after I completed my master's
Hmm.
public policy, I came back to the government.
Right.
IIM Bangalore decided to float a new PhD program in public policy, and they
Right.
wrote to me asking me to apply.
Okay.
And that is how I, got in and did. So it's a kind of, intermixing of choices and chances. And I think
Absolutely.
that so there was a deliberation, but
Hmm.
it was also serendipity.
Fantastic. That's a great explanation. And I think related to that, I wanted to ask you, like, I mean, you are a mother, you are, obviously a public figure, you're a speaker, you've done multiple roles. So obviously, is there, some ways you can explain what are some of the things you gained and what are some things which you lost along this journey of personal brand building?
Okay. I go with the flow. So I can't really say that I lost something.
Hmm.
And it used to be that when I was younger, more a new entrant into the service, a new mother.
Right.
At that time, I had organized and compartmentalized my life a little more.
Right.
But the life of an IAS officer and the life of a mother too is one where, suddenly there may be a crisis, then there would be a long hiatus when things are smooth, and then something sudden again erupts. So somewhere along the line, I learned to go with the flow. So that is what I basically do. That when there is a sudden, when the home demands my attention, I give my full attention to the home. When work demands my attention, I give my full attention to the work, and what I do, I'm completely focused on. So that is the way it.
You look at.
Basically, that's the way I do my structure. I don't really structure it, not in the last many years at least.
Okay, fantastic. And if you were to think about advice for someone who's starting out their journey as a personal brand, if they are very young, and you've been talking to a lot of youth and coaching them as well. So what's your advice for people like that? How should they be thinking about their personal brand or their journey?
I think that both your personal growth, which you may define as wealth or career success, or having, however, whatever pushes your buttons.
Right.
It's one very important aspect of life.
Right.
So I don't think we should expect from the youth today any element of self-sacrifice. It is not. There are people who can do it, but that is not everybody. So there's that aspect of it.
Right.
But there's other very important aspect which we tend to lose sight of is, can you see me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Which we tend to lose sight of is personal social responsibility.
Right.
Which is very important to me, because I think all of us, by merely being a member of society,
right,
we owe something
right,
to the structure which we live in.
Got it.
So what I always advise you this, that it is not necessary that you should become, you renounce everything and then go and serve.
Yeah.
You become a sannyasi and you preach. Not required. You do your career. You focus on your career, but give some time every day or every week or every month, what you can do to someone else. And here also I would say that it is not always necessary that you should join some organization. People keep writing to me saying that we want to join with you, we want to collaborate with you and do something.
Right.
It may or may not be feasible. I'm not saying group work does work, but it's not always feasible. So the thing to do is that you look around you. Who is most in need of help?
Right.
Just help them. Then it will grow from there.
Yeah.
And what do you? That is whom to serve. The service is there. The key word there.
Correct.
What else do you do? What do you do? Like what do you share?
Right.
Choose some area of your interest. It could be your expertise. If you are an engineer, then it could be something in engineering. Or if you are good at music, let us say it's your passion. It may not be a profession, but it's your passion. Then let it be music. Any area of your passion or interest or expertise, and then share that.
Got it.
See, for example, my daughter is a lawyer. She spends her days and nights before the computer.
Right.
But she does give some of her time, and her interest is that she goes and volunteers in a home for stray cats.
Very nice.
That is her interest. So that is what she does. So whatever time you can spare, and whoever is nearest to you, and choose an area which is your area of interest so that you'll stay with it.
Yes.
Or your area of expertise, so that what you impart or share will be valued. If you know nothing about cooking, then don't start a cooking blog.
Yeah.
So choose something where you are good at or you are interested in, and then give in that area. And throughout your life, as long as you can, maintain this dual career. People are shocked when I say dual career, but there is one career which is your bread and butter, which pays the bills. But this is the other career where you pay your debt to society.
Got it.
Where you give. You may not earn something out of it, but you'll be learning something else out of it. So this
Absolutely.
is basically how I have done. I have chosen knowledge, which is
Right.
my public good, so to say, which I am
Right.
good at and I can share. I know enough to make it
Right.
worthwhile. And
Right.
then it is quite easy to fit something into your schedule when you are really interested in it. So
Fantastic.
that is what I would like to share.
Fantastic. And
So
you mentioned, some of the guides who have been helping you, and is there some couple of names which come to your mind who are role models of personal brands who have, and what are some of the values you see in them?
these are not well-known people. Even the
Right.
people whom I spoke of, Dr. Shamal Roy, who
Right.
is from IIM Bangalore, was
Right.
my PhD guide, a
Right.
wonderful human being. I also
Mm.
so happens they are all academics.
Right.
They are reticent people.
Right.
So they may not, have branded themselves. But
Right.
when you are interacting,
Mm.
they leave a mark on you which stays for
Mm.
life.
Correct.
Which far more than being a media star is
Right.
something. But other than that, I have learned from so many people whom I interact with
Mm.
in the course of my life.
Right.
So uh, thinking of one, uh, that is Mallika.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't have a picture readily available.
No problem. No
Mallika,
problem.
I met in Belgaum when I
Mm-hmm.
was on a tour. She works as a buggy driver in
Okay.
KLE Society in Belgaum.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mallika lost her uh, husband when in her early 20s. She was
Mm-hmm.
left with a boy and a girl.
Mm.
And fortunately for her, the KLE Society took her under their wing. They have a women's wing. So they took her under their care. They
Mm.
trained her in driving, and today
Mm.
she drives around.
Okay.
So when I generally when I meet somebody I chat. So she was taking me around in the buggy, and that's how I got to know her story. And then I
Mm.
told her that I want a photograph with you.
Mm.
I wish I had been prepared with that picture, but let us see. Maybe if I can, I'll send it to you.
Sure.
So, and then she told me that okay, I'll pose for a photograph with you, but you must be ready at 6:30 a.m.
Mm.
because I have to start driving at 7. So she gave me an appointment basically for 6:30 in the morning, and the picture which I'll share with you shows me in my nightie and Mallika all dressed and smiling and ready, and we are together in a photograph. She
Right.
overcame that adversity, and for me, especially for women, I think overcoming limitations is a
Mm.
very important theme in life, because
Right.
it is not that all of us have, but
Yeah.
even the well educated upper class women
Mm.
have some kind of restriction placed on them,
Mm.
partly by themselves, partly by the people around them.
Right.
So, Mallika, for me, for example, is a very important example of how
Mm.
you overcome the limitations which your circumstances have placed on you. So there are
Got it.
so many people like that I can remember who have touched my life and then
Right.
moved on.
Got it. Got it. So, as we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you, what is your recipe or mantra for personal branding success? I know you mentioned go with the flow, but is there anything else you would like to share?
So this is what I feel that, as I told you, that your inner core being and
Mm.
the external image that you project and what
Right.
you say and do in the meanwhile, those
Right.
should be in alignment. Otherwise,
Mm.
somewhere along the line, you may be able to project a good image, but somewhere
Mm.
that misalignment will start showing in cracks, either in your personality or in your work or
Right.
merely in the image that you project yourself. So
Right.
start with that substance that only I will know whether
Mm.
what I am speaking to you today is the truth or not.
Right.
There's no
Right.
way for you to know, but I
Right.
do know. And
Yeah.
if I am not, then somewhere there would be a crack. It would be nice maybe for a half-hour interview, but
Right.
can't sustain it throughout life. So the
Exactly.
key to a sustainable personal brand is
Mm.
that the show and the structure and the substance are all in alignment. I think that is basically what I'd like to share.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a very busy schedule. Appreciate you doing this for me, and I will keep you posted when this goes live.
Please, and I'll share that picture with you. If you can put it somewhere along the interview, yes.
I will do that. Please hold on.